And then I'll read so Alan, yes.
So Alan's withdrawal was not surprising. If anybody who has contested elections, you know, the intimidation and violence in elections precede the elections, occur during the elections, and might even occur after the elections. You saw what happened in Yawasu West Wagon when the MPP decided that on the day of the elections we were going to visit, that they were in the studio. We were going to visit untold hardships on the people. We now know that it was a planned activity. COP, is it COP?
Yes, sir.
Superintendent, not Alex Mensa.
Oh, okay,
Asari. No, one of them has said clearly that he doesn't regret the actions that occurred at Ayahuasca West Wagon. And we've seen even across the country during the 2024 elections, there were incidents of violence, and we believe that those incidents affected the fortunes of the NDC. So can we say that the Superdelegates Congress, and they use that interchangeable. Sometimes they call it the Special Delegates Congress, other times they call it the Superdelegates Congress. So we could see that the Superdelegates Congress was largely strategically and tactically skewed in favor of an establishment candidate. And that establishment candidate was Dr. Mahmoud Baumia. Now you sometimes, and I listen to my brother Elvis, and I think that Elvis is missing the point to some extent. It is not on the day of the election. On the day of the election, there were pockets of violence. But how do you describe an election which requires that when you vote, you show your vote to somebody else? So it means they were being whipped to do that. It means the election was not free and fair. It means they had suspected, even the establishment suspected, that even the Superdelegates Congress could produce an outcome that was not desirable. So to make assurance double sure, they required that when you vote, you show your vote. And then there was somebody who put herself in the woman organizer's office, according to Hobson Odoye, and was doling out 100,000 Ghana cedis and 50,000 Ghana cedis. And so clearly, what do you expect somebody who is interested in the free, fair elections to do? What do you expect? And who can tell what will happen in the general elections? Everybody is saying that, well, we have about 20,000 people who will go and vote. These 20,000 people are aggregated around party executives, the same special delegates and all, in the 200 and over constituencies in this country, 275 constituencies. So who knows how they will behave? Because after all, they are party executives. As the political party, the MPP has an overbearing influence on these party executives. You are not able to tell. Alan Kyerematen, and I support him totally. The people have argued, and I've heard that argument. They should have stayed in the fight and throw good money away. Throw good money away. Why should I do that? I mean, it becomes illogical and irrational. I mean, you know that the circumstances, and I said it on this platform, long before the Superdelegates Congress, long before Afriya Koto emerged, that look, the MPP knows, and the Nana Akufo-Addo knows, they have performed so disastrously bad that they now are looking for a protector. It is not a competent person they are looking for. The Akufo-Addo's government is looking for somebody who will protect their backs when they are in office. So what they are doing is not only limited to elections within the MPP. I can tell you as a matter of fact that we in the NDC know that Akufo-Addo might want to influence the outcome of the general elections. Because, look, everybody knows that Akufo-Addo and his government will not hold corrupt people accountable. In fact, he has earned the dubious title of being a clearing agent. He has been named the mother serpent of corruption. So there's no way that he's going to hold his people accountable. Ghanaians' hope is now in post-regime accountability. That, look, people have stashed money under their beds. In fact, in one case, the money could not even be accounted for until happenstance chance ran out on the person who was stealing the money. And then the attention was drawn to the money, and they realized that $1 million was lost. I mean, many incidents. I mean, you talk about the fuel contamination, the early days of the NPP.
Postgate.
You talk about PDS. Nobody has accounted for the money up to now. You remember on this platform or other platform, I talked about money laundering, how about $24 million was moved from Ghana to London and intercepted. I mean, hell broke loose when I said that. But subsequent events have confirmed that. I mean, we have gotten reports of British authorities and other authorities. The Ghana embassy in Belgium, accounts were closed with a bank because of suspicion of money laundering and non-compliance with the principles that, banking requirements of disclosing where the money was coming from. So clearly, this government will do everything to ensure that Baume emerges. Everything and anything, including sitting in an office and giving out money. Anything, including the chairman of a party in a region, taking a microphone around, thrusting the microphone into the face of super delegates and asking them who they will vote for. I mean, this is just unconscionable. This is just, clearly unacceptable. Now, Alan Kyerematen sat through. Alan Kyerematen himself has got himself to blame. I do not know how he was going to campaign though. I thought that if Alan Kyerematen, when he was interested in becoming president of this country and succeeding Nana Akufo-Addo, he ought to have disassociated himself with the party long before the time he did it. I mean, the party is so tarnished that it is no longer funny. It's no longer funny. I mean, there's a clique and there's patrimony in this country. If you are not a family member, if you are not a friend of Nana Akufo-Addo, you are not going to get any juicy on any employment at all. In fact, people who are appointees of this government risk losing their appointment if they supported any other candidate. That forced Nana Akufo-Addo himself to come and say that he didn't support. Like and that the ventriloquist, he said one thing and meant the other. And so for Alan Kyerematen, and that signifies doom. I've seen the research which shows that anytime Alan does not support the MPP, the votes in the Ashanti region drop. It's a report, and they have got scientific evidence. They've even put it on a graph. But the Ashantis themselves have come to realize that, yes, they might have been scions of MPP. They might be followers of MPP. MPP might be their party. But the party itself does not serve their interests. I mean, that is why people in their party can say that what the Ashantis are interested in the Ashanti region is just t-shirts and not development. They give them t-shirts and they will vote. So the Ashantis themselves are beginning to realize that they need to hold even the MPP accountable and responsible, and that their fair share of the wealth. I mean, you go and look at Eastern region, and particularly Chibi. The development in Chibi alone far outstrips the development in the entire Ashanti region. And so if you are a political activist and watcher, you will be asking yourself, why are we following this party? When the party is so discriminatory in terms of allocation of resources. And so, yes, all the other candidates, including Kennedy Japan, who promised a showdown, will come to naught. Bawumia will be crowned the Flagbearer of the party. It will be crowned. And that is being crowned because it serves the larger interests of Akufo-Addo and his clique.
Very well. Yakubu Insiya Sina, good morning. I'm watching you live from Libya. Thank you for watching us all the way.
Deleting or Tripolis or Benghazi.
Or Sirt. He didn't add it.
Or Sabah.
Yeah. Cynthia Godia is watching. Mumwenti Abdul Moment, good morning to you. Wala King Walanya, good morning, Pan African TV. The MPP has not respected their own constitution. If they had wanted the electoral college to select 5 aspirants and present to the larger delegates, then the process should have been a selection rather than election by selection. They should have let the delegates tick any 5 people they wanted to lead the party and not what has been done. Well, thank you very much. Solly Evans, good morning. Good morning to you as well. Mr. Pratt, please.
Well, let me start from a statement which Elvis made. Elvis claims that there was no violence in the Superdelegates Conference. That, I think, it's a difficult position to justify. Look, there's either violence or there's no violence. You cannot say that there was no violence and at the same time admit that one person was beaten up. You understand? So, as for violence, there was violence deployed in the Superdelegates Conference. Now, it is not only in cases where people suffered bodily damage that you can claim that there's violence. In psychology, there's a certain category of violence which has come to be defined as psychological violence. So you can actually be violent even without physically touching people or harming them. In the case of the Superdelegates Conference, there were several incidents of violence. There's a much publicized violence which was meted out to Alan Kyerematen's observer in the Northeast. And there's the incident of violence which actually saw the observer of Kennedy Ohinia Japan running into hiding, and there were other incidents. Now, for those who do analysis, this is what they do. Saying that, look, out of 220 qualified delegates who are going to choose a presidential election, the Superdelegates Conference was made up of only 960 delegates. So if you record this level of violence, when the number is limited to 960, what will happen when you extend the numbers to 220,000? That is worrying. And it is exceedingly worrying. Now, yesterday, the New Patriotic Party met for 4 hours with 4 of the contenders for president. After 4 hours, they couldn't reach any agreement. What does that tell you? So the problem is not Alan Kyerematen. Alan Kyerematen is not the problem. When all the others met for 4 hours, they couldn't come to a conclusion. That's a serious situation. Very, very serious situation. The problem is not Mr. Alan Kyerematen. Now, what issues were raised? I'm told that the party has not officially disclosed the issues which were raised. But the newspapers today are reporting. You know, and they must have sources within the party. One of the issues being raised is violence. Violence. Okay? The bias of party leaders and officials has become an issue. Issue of a fair playing field. I mean, Kennedy Japan is saying, for example, according to the Daily Graphic, that his summons to the disciplinary committee, for example, should be ended immediately. Because there are so many people who infracted the rules for the Superdelegates Congress who were not invited to a disciplinary committee. That's an issue. You understand? Now, people are coming up with all kinds of speculations and analysis and so on. Mr. Alan Kyerematen has not put all his cards on the table yet. This is what we call encomiums. What he has done, just encomiums. Small card, he just put one small card on the table. Look at the fallout. He has not even told us what option he's going to exercise. He simply says that I'm not coming for the balloting. I don't want to participate in the so-called ordinary delegates conference of the NPP. That's what. Look at the fallout. What if he plays his final card? And his final card can be anything. Mr. Kyerematen can decide. One of his options is to decide to withdraw from the race, stay in the party as an ordinary member, go to the ordinary delegates congress and vote for whoever he wants. That's one option. And in fact, if he elects that option, the NPP will be very, very happy. There's a second option. He can say, look, after being treated so badly with disrespect and so on, I have decided to join the December 7, 2024 election as an independent candidate to test my popularity with the people. That's a huge crisis for the New Patriotic Party. How are they going to deal with that? How can anybody phantom what the outcome will be? Nobody. And he can play that card. And he can play that card, one, in the hope of winning, one possibility in the national elections. Two, in the hope of pushing that whole election into a second round, where he becomes the kingmaker. And if he's able to push it into a second round, and for instance, they've elected Alan Kyerematen, elected Banoemuleng as their flag bearer and so on, how is Banoemuleng going to negotiate with Alan if there's a second round? So that's a critical issue, okay? He may also decide that in the face of all of this, I'm joining the Convention People's Party. And the Convention People's Party, by its constitution, can make exceptions and make him flag bearer. What will be the implication? There are some people who are going to say that the Convention People's Party is that formidable and so on. They should listen to the street. Today, if you go to the street, everybody is asking for a third force. What if Alan becomes the third force? If he's able to gather support of political parties, of institutions and organizations, and becomes that third force, he can win the election. So people are not thinking. That's the problem. They are refusing to think, to examine the possibilities available to Mr. Alan Kyerematen. He can very easily emerge as the third force. Mr. Alan Kyerematen can decide that given all that has happened and so on, okay, my best option is to develop some kind of partnership with the National Democratic Congress. What does that mean for the NPP? And it has happened before, don't forget. There was one of those elections in which one of the key advisors to President Kufuor actually resigned from the New Patriotic Party and joined the National Democratic Congress. I've forgotten his name. But it's happened before. It's not new. Okay? What will be the full implications of that? Now, what if Mr. Kyerematen actually stays in the party, decides to stay in the party, to behave as a loyal party member and so on? There is no guarantee that his supporters within the party will continue to belong to the party. In this very office, one young woman approached me, I think 2 days before Mr. Kyerematen pulled out of the race. Hardened MPP member, core MPP, she told me her history in the party and so on, and said, look, the way they are treating Mr. Alan Kyerematen, if it doesn't stop, I will have nothing to do with the NPP for the rest of my life. And she burst out and started crying like a baby. This is something the party leaders must know. There are people in the party who are that passionate about Mr. Alan Kyerematen. Now, this element of bias is being dismissed so lightly. The evidence available, if you examine it carefully, is shocking. 10 of the presidential aspirants went to a meeting to decide the rules of the contest. 9 out of the 10 opted for decentralization of the elections. Only one insisted on centralization. The party took the position to centralize. Where is the fairness? Then, a few days to the election, the party itself came and made the same arguments that the 9 had made. That they were changing how they get the serial numbers and so on, to avoid the possibility of people being able to identify who voted for who. You remember? You remember? Yeah. It came back to the argument that the 9 had made for centralization. Because the main argument for centralization of the election was to ensure that it became difficult for people to tell who voted for who and who didn't vote for who and so on. The party itself came to admit that argument. Then there's something else which is most significant. The rules for the contest stated that anybody who cast his ballot and showed it to the public, that vote should not be counted. In Naleru, 28 people voted. Out of the 28, only one did not publicly display the ballot, the regional minister. The regional minister was the only one who did the honorable thing by not showing his ballot. And yet all the 28 votes were counted in favor of Bawumia, votes who should have been counted. Why would anybody think that this thing is not skewed in favor of Bawumia? People visited violence on delegates and so on. None of them, not one of them, was invited to the disciplinary committee. But Hosina Doye was invited to the disciplinary committee. He didn't beat anybody. He didn't intimidate anybody. All he said was that all the candidates had influenced delegates, which everybody knows to be true. Hosina Doye was invited to the disciplinary committee. What injustice? What injustice? Kennedy Ohine Japan, who had only said that there was likely to be a showdown. The only thing he said was that he will have a showdown with the president and the vice president. He was invited to the disciplinary committee. His case is still pending before the disciplinary committee. The people who poked the eye of an observer did not appear before the disciplinary. Now, I read Mr. Alan Kyerematen's statement very, very carefully. I wish I had it here, but I read his statement very, very carefully. And he raised substantial, significant issues about the conduct of the Superdelegates Conference. And he actually posed the question, how did our party get here? How did the New Patriotic Party get here? That is a major problem for the party. Now, you are talking about Mr. Alan Kyerematen. He's not a newcomer to the New Patriotic Party. Indeed, he's a founding member of the Patriotic Party. Founding member of the New Patriotic Party. Look at how he's being treated. In favor of somebody who actually joined the party in 2016. I don't know how many people have read Atta Kennedy's book, Chasing the Elephant into the Bush. And Atta Kennedy admits that when Bawumia came into the party, he didn't have a membership card. They actually had to make some hunya to get him a backdated party membership card. He is the one that the party prefers against the person whose sweat, whose money, whose dedication led to the emergence of the New Patriotic Party. What kind of a party is that? Now, it is true that people may join political parties and organizations not from the beginning, from the middle, and so on, and make significant contributions to the building of the party. That is true. Nobody doubts that. But it is also true that parties have to respect those who brought them into being. Those whose dedication, whose money, whose sweat, whose effort brought them into being. Why has Mr. Alan Kyerematen been treated so shabbily? So shabbily. And the worst part is the fact that some people are laughing at him. Some small minds, very small minds, they're laughing at him, that he's running away. Why? Running away? It is legitimate, it is proper. He has to. Somebody compare what is happening to a boxing match. If you are going into a boxing match and your two hands have been tied behind you, and you have been blindfolded, you'll be a fool to get into that match. And in this case, Mr. Alan Kyerematen's hands had been tied behind him, and he had been blindfolded. And the opponent had been given iron gloves.
Not gloves, iron gloves.
Iron gloves to go and fight him. Who would enter into a race like that? Who? in his right senses will enter into a race like that. Yeah. Unless you're suicidal. Unless you're suicidal. And it was obvious from the very beginning that everything was being skewed against Mr. Alan Kyerematen. Not only him, and others. Look at what they did to Kwesi Pratt Jnr. Unbelievable. Before they entered into the contest, they agreed on the rules. That if there is a tie, there will be a runoff by the same delegates. Now there's a tie in the middle of it. Say, no, we have changed the rules. Change the rules? Why? Why change the rules? And Mr. Kwesi Pratt Jnr, like Alan Kyerematen, is one of the stalwarts of the party. He's a founding member of the party. He put in all his resources, all his brain power and so on, to bring the party into existence. Look how he's being treated so shabbily. It doesn't matter. Now it does appear that the only center in the party which matters is one. And that center revolves around one family. How can any political party institution, national institution, survive on the basis of the interest of one family? How is that possible? So the New Patriotic Party is stabbing itself in the abdomen. Seriously stabbing itself in the abdomen. Many people the consequences, not just for this election, but the consequences for the and what that party stands for. Look, I saw the 1979 elections. Similar things led to the emergence of the United National Convention. And it took a very, very long time for the party to recover from the division, that division. In fact, that recovery, the party's recovery only came in 2000. Full recovery came in 2000. And the people who were involved in that are starting all over again. The people who are fighting Alan Kyerematen, go back to 1979 and see where they stood. They were in the UNC. Challenge me if I'm wrong. The cabal, which is so busy fighting Alan Kyerematen and wanting to take over the party and so on, did the same thing in 1979, leading to a breakup of the UP tradition. And they are at it again. It's up to them. But you see, one thing they should not forget is that me, I'm an Nkrumahist. Alan is not an Nkrumahist. Okay. But in Ghanaian politics, everybody agrees that if you are looking for politicians with a gentle disposition, who are not so steep in negative partisanship, somebody who will stand up for everybody irrespective of your political ideas and so on, Mr. Alan Kyerematen is one of those who top on that bill. That's an asset. That's a serious asset. I've talked to many people who have said that, look, if Mr. Alan Kyerematen were to emerge as flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party, one thing we can be sure of is free and fair elections on December 7, 2024. He will not organize talks. It is not within him to organize talks. What happened in Ayawasu West Wagon would be discouraged and so on if Alan Kyerematen is the leader. So I was talking to people who were expecting a clean contest if Mr. Alan Kyerematen was to emerge as flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party. Now that opportunity is lost. Who are in charge? What should we expect of the December 7, 2024 elections? That is our challenge. And let nobody think that what is happening in the NPP is a private matter. And that those who are not in the NPP have no say. We all have a say in what happens in the NPP. Because all the political parties, including the New Patriotic Party, are public institutions. They are asking for the mandate to manage the nation of Ghana and its resources. They are asking for the mandate to shape our collective destiny. And because they're asking for a mandate to shape our collective destiny, we collectively have an interest in what is happening in the New Patriotic Party. You understand? I wish that all the grievances put forward by all the other aspirants, the 3 other aspirants, I mean, Adai Nimo, in fact 4, Adai Nimo, Kennedy Japan, Akoto Afriye, and the other one. Who is the other one? No.
It's finished. So it's finished.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But Alan is out now. So.
3 out of 4. Adai Nimo, Kennedy Japan, and Afriye Akoto. That the grievances they put forward at the meeting yesterday should be addressed. Because listen, it is still possible for 1 or 2 of the 3 or all of the 3 to withdraw from the race.
Yep.
What would happen if the 3 withdraw from the race? Can you imagine what will happen to this country and the likely outcome of the elections if 3 of the 4 also decide that they are not contesting, they are joining Alan Kyerematen, and that they all have come together to back one independent candidate, or they are forming a political party? That could very easily become the 3rd force that people on the streets are looking for. And that could put not just the New Patriotic Party, but the NDC in danger of losing the elections. Can you imagine? If tomorrow we wake up and hear that Kennedy Japan, Adai Nimo, and Afriye Akoto are dissatisfied with the processes, they are also not contesting. They are putting their weight behind Adai Nimo or Afriye Akoto as their independent candidate, or that they are forming a political party to contest the 2024 election. Ghana's politics will change forever. Can you imagine if they manage, these people manage to strike an alliance with the CPP and PNC? They may be on their way to victory. You understand? So people should think. People should be objective. People should be logical in the examination of this. This is not about Alan Kyerematen. This is about Ghana and its future. And that's what we should be looking at.
Good morning, my brother. In my humble opinion, Mr. Alan should form a political party with the help of Mr. Paul Afoko, Kwame Japan, Sami Crab, and co. I'm telling you, the party will be a 3rd force and kingmakers in this country. Alan has, oh dear, okay, has been stabbed, okay, right, on the back by the president and functionaries of the MPP. All this is happening. All these happenings should be directed at the doorsteps of President Akufo-Addo. Ashanti region will punish MPP in 2025. Juliana Belinda Ubri sent in this one. This is exactly how His Excellency Peter Obi emerged. Mr. Alan must look for a suitable party and become the flag bearer. We desperately need a 3rd force in Ghana. Kwame, it's now clear that this incompetent MPP party is trying to impose the vice president on Ghanaians, someone who has no credibility, has no track record. My time is up. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Pratt. Thank you, Elvis. Thank you, Honorable. I hope next week Thursday, Honorable and Elvis, you come in early so that we can extend this conversation. Up next, Bless is going to have an interview. Stay with us. Don't move a muscle.